So this webinar is titled The Label Tells a Story, but Your Body Tells the Truth. We're going to be looking at and understanding a nutrition label. So my name is Shirley. I am part of SNS Health and Wellness Center, and I'm excited to kick off this webinar with you all. So first, we want to get started with the disclaimer. I want to say that this webinar is for educational and informational purposes only. It's not intended to serve as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. So if there's something that sparks your interest or you're curious about learning more, you can always reach out to our team. We'd be happy to have conversation with you to discuss what you're interested in. But in addition, if you need any guidance around any health conditions, especially anything that we've mentioned during our webinar, we would coordinate time with our nurse practitioner. At any point this evening, if you feel that that is something that you want to look into, we're more than happy to share our consult link over. Okay. So tonight I wanted to cover the topics that we would be really what this webinar is centered around. So we're going to discuss how to avoid foods that look healthy but leave you feeling tired, bloated, and often craving much more. We're going to talk about why nutrition labels don't tell you how foods actually impact your body. And then finally, how to choose foods that support your brain, your energy, and your metabolism. Before we get into the bulk of the webinar content, we did want to pose this question to you all. So when you look at a nutrition label, what is the first thing you notice? So I'm going to pull up a poll and I want you all to answer this question for me. So you should see the poll appear on your screen now. So when you look at a nutrition label, what's the first thing you check? Okay. Okay. Let's give it about another 10 seconds to get the last folks to join and vote with us. All right. Thank you all for participating. So I'm going to release the results here. As you can see, 50% of us said that calories is the first thing we would check. And that's not by mistake, that's by design. We'll talk about that more as we get into the webinar. And then people are also saying that they are checking sugar, followed by something else. So something else was third, and then carbs. For the folks who answered something else, I'm really interested to know what it is that you're looking at. So if you could just write in the chat what it is that you first noticed and what are you checking when you look at the nutrition label, really want to hear from you. Because for me, I am first looking at calories as well. Oh, sodium. Okay. Makes sense. That's a good one to pay attention to. And we'll touch on sodium here in the webinar as well. And then Ellie says she's looking at carbs and sodium. Okay. I'm with you guys. I see it. All right. Protein. Rashonda said protein. Okay, that's a good one too. We'll talk about all of that here. So, before we get into, again, like the meat of everything, meat and protein, funny. So before we get into the meat of everything that we're going to talk about, I really want to introduce why we're having this webinar in the first place. So everyone has seen nutrition labels, right? Like it's on the back of every packaged good that we would purchase in the stores. But unfortunately, not a lot of us really know how to read it. And we should. So, nutrition facts labels gives us very important information, but it's not designed to really teach us how our body actually works. So, the way that nutrition labels have been set up is more for simplicity, is more for to be compliant with regulation. It's not really geared and focused on like making sure that you are eating well enough for your gut health or weight loss that you want to accomplish, or maybe you have some hormonal imbalances. is not going to showcase that to you. So if you've ever felt confused or like think you bought something healthy at the store, but then you end up not feeling good after you're eating it, it could be because there are some hidden things in the label that are not visibly displayed that could be impacting why you feel that way. So my charge for us tonight is to become smarter shoppers, okay? Becoming a smarter shopper means that you know what to look at, you know what to ignore, and you know what you have to dig into to really understand what's on the label. So, on the right side here of the slide, this is typical things that you will see on a nutrition label. You'll see, of course, the serving size and the calories. You'll see vitamins and nutrients. You'll see a breakdown of your macronutrients. So that's like your total fat, carbohydrates, protein. You'll also see cholesterol. You'll see a line item for added sugar, as well as the ingredient list. And you will also see health claims that may or may not be written on the nutrition label. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so I did want to take a brief moment to introduce our nurse practitioner. So, before we dive in deeper, Samuel Lucent has been in the medical field for over a decade now. So, his journey really entails starting out as a medical assistant and working his way up, earning multiple degrees, all in the nursing profession. So, within the past 5 years, Sam became a double board certified nurse practitioner. He also became certified as a medical examiner and he earned his certification in functional medicine. So he is the owner of SNS Health and Wellness Center, where he focuses on giving personalized, patient-centered care that inevitably impacts the people that he works with and the people that he works for. So let's give a warm welcome to Samuel Lucene and prepare ourselves to hear what he has to say.
Thank you, Shirley. Good evening, everyone. It is 7 past 7 p.m., so I know everybody is probably tired after a long day, but I thank you for joining us tonight, for this great webinar, our first webinar for the year. Well, Happy New Year. It's still January of 2026. So this webinar is going to be another great one. So the purpose of this webinar, just like Shirley mentioned, we are going to decode nutrition labels because whenever the nutrition labels is written, it does not tell you everything. So we have to be the detective in order to know exactly what is going on there. And I want you to be able to know what to look for and where to look for in a nutrition label. And that will help us big time, especially when we're doing grocery shopping. So the first one is calorie. We're going to talk about calories. And I saw that most people, they chose calories, which is, not surprising. I used to pick calories as well until I found out that calories by itself is not the first thing that we should be looking at. So this is an example of a nutrition label for Oreo cookies. I know a lot of people love Oreo cookies. I like it, not so much. But let me ask you this question. So when you look at this nutrition label right there, the first thing that comes to mind or that gets your attention is the calories, right? Because it's in the big letter. It says calories 160. So then that's the first thing that comes to mind. However, some people, they make that big mistake where they believe or they think for some reason that 160 calories is the entire package. That's a huge mistake that people make. And I've seen that over and over. And that's why I want to start with this and letting you know that when you first see a label, the first thing you need to start with is not just the calorie, it is also the serving size. That's what will help you big time. So when you look at this example right there, it says one serving size equals to 3 cookies. So basically, when you eat 3 cookies, you will consume a total of 160 calories. So now we understand this part. So then my question for you is, how many of you have eaten more than 3 cookies of Oreos, just for an example? Or do you just buy one and pick 3 cookies or less and eat, or do you eat more than 3 cookies? You can drop a yes or no in the chat so I see where we are at. If we simply, Gina said, okay. So is it a yes or no? Do you eat more than 3 cookies or you stay at 3 cookies when you purchase Oreos? Yes, someone said yes. They eat more than 3 cookies, and that's the usual. Yeah, some people say 6. I see. Okay, perfect. Yeah, and that's the main reason I picked this example because several times we tend to eat more than 3 cookies easily, not even noticing. So now let's do the math together. I want you to pay attention. 4 cookies, Ellie said. So now we understand that one serving is 3 cookies, which equals to 160 calories. Let's break it down smaller. So that means if you eat 1 cookie, you will consume a total of 53 calories. That's not too bad because when you take 160, you divide it by 3, that gives you 53 calories. Not too bad. Now, let's look at the bigger picture. When you look at the nutrition label, you also see the total servings. That's what I want you guys to pay attention because when you take that 11 servings for this example and you multiply it by 160 calories, the total is 1,760 calories. So let's say if you're sitting watching Netflix or spending time with family, having fun, you stop by, take 1 cookie, and then next thing you know, take another cookie. It tastes very good, and you're having fun with your family. Next thing you know, you probably will eat the entire package or maybe half of it. So that's where I want you to really focus, like to see the magnitude of small decision. Because when you look at the 160 calories, that wasn't too bad. However, we know, well, they know that we will not just eat only 3 cookies. We'll eat way more than that. And that's where the calories start catching up to you. Like you start eating more and more and more because it's really good. And now the question for you guys is, what if the nutrition label says 1,700 calories? Would you buy it? Probably not. Probably not. But because it says 160 calories per serving, it sounds very good. So what the takeaway here is to not focus only on the calories and understand that the calorie per serving, it's not the entire package, and also look at the total serving because that will help you understand if you were to eat more than this one serving, how many calories will you consume in total? Everybody's clear so far. All right. Now we're gonna move on to the second section, which is fats. I love fats. However, there are good fats, there are not so good fats, and there are really, really bad fats. So we're going to learn that together. Last year, I did a webinar on the number one reason your body is holding on to fat, where I explain in detail the different type of fat. So for the sake of time and for us to be on the same page, I'm going to do a quick fat refresher so we all understand what I will be talking about on the next slide. So we have those monounsaturated fat, polyunsaturated fat. Those are very healthy fat. We know that. And we have the saturated fat, which is the type of fat we need to limit. I'm not saying don't take it at all, but we need to limit that because that type of fat can really increase your cholesterol and your blood pressure and your inflammation, and it can really do damage if you eat too much of that type of fat. But the worst of the worst fat is the trans fat. This is the one I want you to remember, trans fat. This is the worst fat. Why? Because it is man-made fat. It is not a type of fat that come naturally from food. So your body actually does not recognize the type of fat. So we're gonna learn more about that because it is very, very dangerous type of fat. So another question I have for you, looking at the nutrition label, this one, for example, you see total fat is 17 gram. However, you only see they highlighted the saturated fat, which has 8 gram total, and trans fat, which has nothing at all. That's what the label says, at least. So the question I want you to start asking is, what happened to the rest? Because when you say 8 plus 0 does not equate 17. You see, so what happened to the ninth, you know? So luckily, those fats, they are still there. However, they are very good and healthy fat. They are the mono and polyunsaturated fat. You can get this in avocado and nuts, as well as fish. So these are very good type of fat. Now, here is the tricky part. It says zero trans fat. However, it does not mean that the nutrition does not have trans fat in it. Remember, I told you that trans fat is the worst of the worst fat, type of fat. So whenever you see a label that says zero trans fat, do not automatically believe it. I'll say one more time. Whenever you see zero trans fat in a label, do not automatically believe it. Why? Because that label can still contain trans fat in it. You just need to know where to look for it and what are they. And by the end of this webinar, I'm going to show you exactly where they are hiding. And this type of fat, they can, one, clog your arteries, and you know what can happen when your arteries are clogged. Number two, they can trigger inflammation. Do you know why? Because that type of fat, it is not real. They call it fake fat. So when you introduce something that is not nutritious for your body, and your body, what the body says, it triggers the body, go into defense mode, and they're like, okay, there is something inside of me that we don't know what it is. Let's get ready. So they activate your immune system, then trigger that inflammation, and you do not want your body to be inflamed for no reason. And also your liver, that type of fat stress your liver. So please, again, whenever you see zero trans fat, don't just go to the next one. I will show you where to look for to make sure that there is absolutely no trans fat. Because the type of trans fat, it's good for the companies, not for your health. Companies use trans fat to make food last longer. For example, chips or any processed food. Like, think of it, like if you have a chip, you can put it on your counter for like weeks or maybe months, and it still tastes good, look good. It's not rotten. Why? It's because of the type of trans fat they put in it. So that's why we have to be very careful. And I will show you exactly where that type of trans fat is hiding in the label. But now we're going to talk about carbs. And I know carbs, we have the love and hate relationship with carbs because carbs, yes, it is good, but at the same time, it can be very harmful. So let's dive in there. This label, for example, it says the total of carb is 16 gram. However, it has 1 gram of fiber and 2 grams of sugar. Now, 1 plus 2 definitely does not equal to 16. So, question you need to ask yourself is, what happened? What happened to the rest? So that's where I want you guys to become detective, Because yes, the nutrition label will tell you everything that's in the food. However, it will not highlight everything from the food. So you have to really dip, dig, dive into it to find out what's going on, where it is hiding. So one mistake that a lot of people, especially people with diabetes, they make that mistake because when they look at total sugar is 2 gram in their head, they're like, okay, so that's not going to disturb my blood sugar. However, the rest will definitely disturb your blood sugar because what we're talking about are starches. Even though starches are very good, they are healthy, but they are still counted as sugar because whenever you eat starch, your body will break it down into sugar. So the body does not even care what you eat. What they care about is what's in me. It is sugar. So don't just look at the total of sugar, also look elsewhere to see what else is contributed to that total of carb because starch is there. Even if it's not highlighted, it is there somewhere. And like I said, starch is very good. It's very healthy. It's healthy when it's not processed. Anything is that's bottom line. Anything is healthy when not processed. If they process it, it definitely is not healthy. What they mean by process is they will take away the nutrient, the vitamins, the minerals, all the good stuff, and then just leave you with the element, whether it's starch or the added sugar. Now we're moving on to added sugar. This is another huge, huge problem because added sugar is in almost all nutrition label. I'm pretty sure a lot of people like this type of juice. I used to because it tastes really good. However, here is the problem. See, it says the total of sugar is 28 gram, and below it, it says that includes 28 gram of added sugar. That tells me you do not get anything from that sugar. You get nothing but empty calories. And when your body receives empty calories, what it does, it spikes your blood sugar. It really play with your hormone and trigger inflammation, not just diabetes, but also your blood pressure because your body does not understand what happens. So empty calorie, they are considered as simple carbs. So simple carbs, whenever you consume simple carbs, it'll break down so fast and your body will be shocked and be like, what happened? You just gave me something, and next thing you know, it's already broken down into so many small pieces. I don't know what happened. So that's why I want you guys to be very careful when you're looking at the total sugar. Don't just look at the total sugar, look below it and see how how much of added sugar included in that total of sugar. And this one is the entire 28 gram of added sugar. And I want you to remember for men, it's recommended for you to eat a total of 36 gram of added sugar. It's okay during a day, 24 hours, you eat 36 gram of added sugar. If you do more than that, then that's when you start causing problem, gut health issues, weight loss issues, etc. And for women, 25 gram of added sugar is your max. For men, 36 gram, and for women, 25 gram of added sugar. So you can imagine if you're a woman and you drink this only, you already pass the amount of added sugar that is recommended for you to consume a day in 24 hours. So now let's talk about one of the most important part. I call it very important because whenever you look at a nutrition label, you'll see the ingredients is it's at the bottom. If you can see, it's very small, very, very small. And sometimes it's very hard to read. And especially if we have vision problem or we may not have vision problem, it's still very small. However, it is very important to read. Very, very, very important. And the first thing I want you to know about ingredient is that they are listed in order of amount. What I mean by that is whenever you see the first ingredient, it's that means this ingredient has the most of everything. So the first one for the croissant, you see the enriched bleach with flour. So that means this the croissant, the maximum ingredient is come from the croissant. And then as you go to the right, they are they have less and less and less. Looking at the very last one, the soy, it tells you that if we were to give it number, you'll say the bleach with flour has 40% of the ingredient, and then the soy, which is the last one, probably has 5%. So this is how they place it. So they place it for a reason. So they don't just put it out there just for you to read, but also they want to make sure that hey, this has more, this has less, 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 and less. So people need to understand that because whenever you see something good or something bad in an ingredient, you have to see where are they located. Are they located at the very beginning or at the very end? That will tell you how much you're consuming. And then also, I highlighted this in red because they are very, very highly processed. And I want you to guys to stay away from them. The second one is the all those type of oil, the soybean, the high fructose. High fructose is even if it says zero sugar, if you're looking at an ingredient, it says zero sugar, and you look at the ingredient, it says high fructose. This is even worse than sugar because high fructose, they probably 600 more or less sweeter than sugar. So that tells you how much sweet you're putting into your body. And then these are the red flag. Remember, I told you whenever you see and then a label that says zero trans fat, don't stop there. Look further. That's where you will go. When you look at the ingredients, you will look for this particular name, partially hydrogenated oil, hydrogenated oil, or hydrogenated vegetable oil, or intensified oil. This type of oil, they are very, very bad. They are considered as trans fat. And now you're probably asking yourself, then why is the label lying to me? No, the label is not lying to you. Everything is there for a reason. They just follow the guideline. They're not trying to make you fully understand. They're simplifying the label, but they're following the guideline. And the guideline said if the label or the food has less than 0.5 gram of trans fat, they don't need to mention it. And they know if they put 0.4 gram of trans fat, now you know you're gonna be like, oh no, I don't want trans fat. You're gonna get rid of it. But if they say zero trans fat, you may overlook it if you don't go to the ingredient part to look for those type of name. If you can take a screenshot of this name just to make sure that whenever you're looking at a nutrition label, even if it says zero trans fat, especially processed food, make sure that these ingredients are not included in the label because these are very, very bad. And again, remember, it will clog your arteries. And you may think 0.4 gram or 0.2 gram is not too bad. Yes, it's not too bad, but remember, you're not just going to eat it once. You're going to eat it twice, maybe three times. And if you live for 40, 50, 60 years, who knows how many times you'll be eating them and what's going to happen to your arteries, what's going to happen to your inflammation system, what's going to happen to your liver. Just think of that. Just don't think of the small portion. Think of the big picture. At the end, what's going to happen? What are you building? What are you putting into your system that later will damage your lifestyle?
All right, I'm gonna pick us back in to kind of wrap us and close us out for the evening. But the last thing on the nutrition label that we want to cover is the percent daily value. So let's go to the next slide. So percent daily value is probably one of the most misunderstood parts of the nutrition label. This is because no one really understands how to interpret it, but all the percent daily value is telling you is that of it tells you how much of a nutrient in one serving fits into your average day. So the average day is based on a 2000 calorie diet, right? And you'll see that at the bottom of your label, right? And that is really a reference point, and that also tells you that it is not personalized. So different people eat different amounts of calories per day. Maybe there are certain people that work out a little bit more, and so they need more calories versus not working out as much, right? And so you reduce your calories, but also depends on other factors as well. Labels will specifically call out all of their serving sizes, all of the calories, and especially the percent daily value based on that 2000 calorie diet or reference point. So when you think about percent daily value, it's not talking about or it's not taking into consideration what your personal goals are. It's not thinking about or referencing how it's going to impact your blood sugar levels. It's not considering like hormones, right? It's just this um, baseline reference. So I wanted to explain to you all how to actually interpret it. So you can see here that 5% daily value or less means that you have a low amount in that nutrient. But if it's 20% daily value or more, that means you have a high amount of that nutrient in your product. Okay, so how can we make this into a real life example? So you can see here on this label of black beans, the sodium, which someone called out earlier before that they checked the sodium levels. You can see that in this label, 450 milligrams accounts for 20% of that nutrient as part of your daily calorie intake. You'll also see the same 20% for the dietary fiber. So, what is good versus what is not? It's the same number, but it has a very different meaning. So, for sodium at 20%, that is something that we want to pay attention to, especially if you're struggling with bloating or blood pressure or just having inflammation. Um, but the 20% of sodium is not a good thing, right? It's a high number, 20%, um, and it's not really good. Now let's look at fiber. Fiber is also 20%, right? But this is actually a positive because fiber is going to support your gut health, it's going to help you with your blood sugar balance, and it's going to help you to stay full throughout the day. So having 20% in dietary fiber is actually a good thing. So the takeaway here is that the percent daily value is going to help you compare, right? Foods very quickly. So you can scan and see, like, okay, I'm getting enough of this nutrient, or I'm not getting enough of another nutrient, or I'm getting a lot of something that's really not too good for me. So, in terms of making decisions when you are looking at the percent daily value, you want to pay attention to your body and really from all of the what we shared here in some of our past webinars too, like we know what nutrients we need to put in our body more or less. We know what we need to stay back and reduce from. So whenever we're looking at that percent daily value, you need to be able to make that judgment, right? And not just purchase foods blindly, but looking at the label to help you make those good decisions. And then in talking, excuse me, in talking about everything that we have as far as nutrition labels, I think a question that's coming up in everyone's mind is everyone's probably realizing, like, okay, so the label tells me some good things. There are some things that are not like explicitly put out there. I have to search the ingredients label. We live in America. Things are packaged, not always the best thing for us to eat. So, what are we supposed to really eat? Like, how do we make that decision? So, on the next slide, I wanted to share a service that we offer here at SNS Health and Wellness Center, and it is a meal plan. This is not just like a cookie cutter meal plan. This is a personalized meal plan that will fit you. So, what should you actually eat? Okay, so when we're thinking about that, we are talking about what your daily calorie needs are. That's going to inform what you should actually eat. Your food sensitivities. There are people who are lactose intolerant. There are certain people who can't eat a specific food. It just doesn't feel right for your body. So we need to take that into account. We also need to take into account your health goals. I know it's early January. Well, we're at the end of January now, but I think the resolutions are still in effect. So everyone who's like a gym goer in the first month of the year, I hope we're still hanging on, but we need to also take into account your health goals. And that altogether plus labs, right? Labs can also be a really good indicator of what you need to put in your body and what you should stop eating. All those together can help formulate your meal plan. And we are able to take all of that information and put together a robust 7-day meal plan for you. So if you see here, we're providing breakfast options, lunch options, dinner, and snacks. Everyone knows we need a little snack here and there to prevent us from binge eating. So we have snacks in here as well. And what this is going to allow you to do is start to understand how your body is responding to the things that we put in our body, right? Food is good for taste. Yes, we know that. It's so good to go to like a restaurant and get like this really good savory food or like sometimes enjoy a cup of ice cream, but we really need to start listening to our bodies and paying attention to what we're putting in our bodies because our bodies will tell us like, hey, I like this. This makes me feel strong, full of energy. And then it'll also tell you, I don't like this. Like I'm feeling sluggish or bloated. So we need to pay attention to our body. And one thing that we can do is start with a meal plan. So typically, meal plans like this can run from $200 to $300, but tonight we want to offer it to you all for 97 bucks. Okay, with this, you are getting a meal plan that is tailored to your needs, your caloric intake. You're going to get a meal plan that's going to support your energy, it's going to support your metabolism as well as your digestion. And yes, you should be going to the restroom every day, right? And some people, some of us don't. So it's going to really support your digestion. It is going to reduce your bloating or like sometimes like the crashes you might feel after you eat. And it's going to be done for you. So you will receive a full 7-day meal plan that you can go ahead and take action on immediately. A lot of the times we're nervous to kind of start a new meal plan or it's tough to put it together, but we're going to help remove that friction for you and provide you with a meal plan that's really going to support you in your health. So again, this is $97 and a lot of the clients that Sam has worked with usually start here at the meal plan. They get to see that, wow, I do feel different. I do feel better. And then we can continue to work with you on improving your health overall.